On this week's episode of the Crushing Debt Podcast, the secret to holistic success. So welcome back to this week's episode. My name is Sean Yesner, owner and founder of Yesner Law, and with me, as always, is your financial coach, George Corbello. How you doing, George?
Doing well. So happy Flag Day, happy Father's Day, happy every day. Hope everybody's doing really, really well. But I'm doing good, buddy. I have to say, it's been a little rainy here in Florida, and I'm still in the new house, and it's
No leaks in the roof yet?
no, no leaks, no nothing to worry about from that standpoint. But definitely, grass is growing and not growing, and got kind of those things going as well.
No insurance fraud yet?
No. We've got a good person who helped us out from that standpoint, so no worries from there. The one thing, hey, can I just say, we did a dumb thing, and I want to just say real quick, we adopted a dog from one of our animal shelters here locally.
We talked about that last week.
Yes, indeed. And so that was dumb. So that is just letting you know, we had a few accidents, few things. She's learning. She's a fantastic dog, though. Getting along with, surprisingly, a week in.
A puppy?
Well, it's supposed to be 2. She's supposed to be 2 years old, but the way she chews on everything, I get the feeling that she's a little younger from that standpoint. But she's an excellent addition to the family, and she's learned that a nice steak is a good thing to eat on an evening itself. So that's the story of my life right now. But we're doing really, really well, buddy.
My kids, I would love it if my kids listen to the show. They don't, and I'm going to make sure they don't listen to this episode while I'm driving around in the car.
Just this segment.
Yeah, no. So, but I do want to talk about our friend, our sponsor that's back, Magic Mind.
Mm-hmm.
I've been taking it for a while now. I still owe you your supply. Sorry, George.
That's all good.
But I've been taking it the last week. I take it with my coffee. So I drink my coffee in the morning. I finish that first cup of coffee. I do my Magic Mind shot, and it's helped. I focus throughout the day. I don't get the jitters. I don't get too high. I don't get too low.
Right.
It doesn't wear off. I don't crash. It tastes good. I put them in the fridge. I take one out in the morning when I make my morning coffee, shake it up when the coffee's done, drink it, and I'm good for the day. So
nice.
They have been kind enough, Magic Mind has been kind enough to give us our own link and code, which is magicmind.com/crushing. And then if you enter the code crushing20, you'll get 20% off your order. You can do a 15-day order, a 30-day order. You can do a subscription order, whatever you want to do. But I use it. I like it. I know George has had it. They've been our sponsor in the past, and I'm sorry. I'll get you your fix here soon.
It's all good. I'll use the link.
But we do have a guest on this week's show, so I want to get to our guest, who was introduced to us by our friend Tiffany Kellogg, who's been a guest on the show a bunch of other times. We've both worked with Tiffany a bunch. So our guest is the founder and CEO of Champion Empire, a Spokane-based collection of businesses and professionals united to support free enterprise, small business, and the community in which we live. His vision for Champion is to foster more generosity than any other leadership network and to be known as the trusted guide for information and resources needed to grow. He's been a business owner from a young age, is a devoted father of 6, a lifelong learner and coach. He's dedicated to his community and creating innovation, change for its future. Welcome our guest, Jesse Johnson. Welcome, Jesse.
Well, thanks, Sean. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so, one of the things we were talking about kind of at the beginning, let me give out your contact information real quick. It's Jesse, Jesse, at championempire.net. Or LinkedIn is Jesse-Johnson-Champion, or your website, championempire.net. And so, one of the things I wanted to kind of ask you right out of the gate, we were doing our due diligence. We were talking a little bit before the show here. And championempire.net is just kind of the very surface level of what you do, right?
Yeah.
So
it's always tough. It's always tough to pull out what I do as an entrepreneur versus some of the companies that I lead, right? So
it's actually, you said so when I was trying to figure out, what is it that Jesse does? It's actually a collection of multiple businesses.
Yes.
Okay, so maybe you can talk a little bit about what it is you do, and more important, what I always like to know is why you do what you do.
Right.
Yeah, well, how about I'll give you the micro version of my story on the front end, which will help answer more of the why and kind of starting there. And then we can have some great discussion about the what, which we could talk about for countless hours. But I grew up in the middle of nowhere in Montana, which adds some relevance to the why I do what I do, because we grew up in a space where 23 miles in the middle of nowhere, right off the highway, no town, no public. We're talking a 30-minute drive to school to be there, and graduating from a small K through 8 that had 80 kids, I think, in the whole school. People treated people a little bit different than what I'm seeing sometimes today. Um, you left your doors unlocked, keys in your car, just a little bit different of an environment in the different parts of the country. But growing up in a restaurant and bar, and what some financial stress can do to a family, there was a lot of abuse, alcoholism challenges that were there. I started working in the business at the age of 10 and got to experience what actually working and having a shift in a business would look like, and ended up realizing that I did not want to take this business over. I watched my family work the 16, 18-hour work days. I did just about every shift in part of it. So I pursued athletics, right? And what small town kid doesn't want to pursue athletics? And as people listening, since we're not sitting across the table, you would be laughing or smiling as I stand a strong 5'10", and at the time I was maybe 5'7" and 150 pounds, going through high school and playing football. But I poured everything into that until my senior year. I ended up breaking a hip. I lost my scholarship to play football in college.
Wow.
Had to go back to the drawing board on, okay, well, what am I going to do financially now? So I knew I needed to own whatever I did. I knew that the path that we were taught back then was to go to school, get a good education. So I pursued my degree in finance at the University of Montana with an end goal of being an investing consultant. I figured, okay, if I could teach people how to make money going into a downturn economy like the one we were headed into, pretty solid industry. Well, 5 weeks into my freshman year, I ended up getting assaulted by 4 football players on campus. Got my jaw broken, wired shut, had to withdraw medically from school, and went from 175 pounds of athlete to 130 pounds of skin and bone in 7 weeks.
Wow.
And when you know a lot more on the psychological background, or what I know today that I didn't know back then, was I was an 18-year-old kid. I had 2 major life events in less than a year that derailed my future plans, which I'm a very future-oriented individual.
Right.
And lost pretty much everything. I'd wrapped my whole identity up in athletics, how hard I could hit on a field or how hard I could get hit and keep moving forward. And now I went to 135 pounds of skin and bone and could barely move. I lost a relationship. Sense of security had happened on the campus with video footage and not a whole lot of recourse to the individuals that were there, which I've totally moved through that part of my life and have reconnected with some of them. But you forced me to move back home. And the only thing that didn't come to a screeching halt in my life as I hit rock bottom was my bills. So I ended up having to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do now? And when my concussion wore off, I could sit at a table and think. And so I started to play poker to make a living. And at the age of 19, I ended up clearing my first 6 figures in the gambling industry in a state where the average household income was about $37,000 a year at the time. And I joked that that's when I found out rock bottom had a basement. It was, you take a lot of resource and you put it in the hands of somebody that has no self-image, no direction, no mentorship, equals disaster. I became a pretty hardcore alcoholic. I was drinking between a fifth to a liter a night, 5 to 6 days a week, getting in fist fights all the time. And what I know now was that I was looking for somebody to potentially end my life at that point. I was very suicidal, but knew I would never take my own life. And so through a lot of the blessings and God's grace in that part of my story, ended up making it through that season until I had a wake-up call moment. Decided I was going to turn my life around, but guess what? There's a difference of knowing and deciding you're going to change your life and actually doing it, or knowing the tools to do that. So out of all the things I could do, I said, let me get some accountability. So I ended up getting a job at a call center. So I had people expecting me to be somewhere, and I started to take these steps. And in about a 6 to 8 month window of time, my life got flipped right side up, where I had met a gal who had a son. I took in her niece and nephew, or adopted her niece and nephew, and took in her 16-year-old little sister. So I went from a 20-year-old single guy to a father of 4 in 6 months.
Wow.
I then ended up purchasing the poker room I used to play and deal at, which put me in the seat of business ownership. And now I had 10 to 15 employees on payroll, but I'm trying to figure out not only how to be a husband, how to be a father, how to navigate the foster adoptive scrutiny of the state. Now I'm trying to put food on the table for the team, having never run a company. I didn't know anything about business except how to work really hard. I didn't know how to really master myself at all, or even some of the principles there. So now I can remember a distinct moment being in the shower as the sole income earner of the family, having to write a $10,000 personal check to cover payroll, with savings completely dwindling, and having grossly overpaid and spent a lot of savings on the business itself, going, what on earth am I going to do to get out of this one? And am I enough to do that? And I was blessed that within that same window, having faced the demons of being full circle back at 16, 18-hour work days, like my family had done in the exact place I didn't want to be, I got partnered up with some business people out of Seattle that took a shot on me. They took me under their wing and mentored me on not just finance and how to turn the business around, but they mentored me on life and how to clean up my act. And so from that point forward, I pretty much devoted all my energy to helping lead individuals and businesses. And that took on many forms over the years: freelancing, coaching, consulting, doing pro bono mentoring of organizations. But the why I do that is because I wanted an organization that could have supported me at affordable rates the way that I needed it. And as I was doing freelance consulting and coaching, advising, I got to 2020, and several of my friends and people that were in my network said, Jesse, you need to actually, more people need to know you. You need to get out there more.
Right.
And I'm a textbook introvert that, if I had it my way, I would not be doing many podcast interviews or anything like that. But they helped me understand that if my life goal truly was to teach over 250,000 people to be people of integrity and to be proactive in their own life, I needed to continue to scale that through teams. And that's what then laid in a 10-year plan to help fundamentally move the needle on poverty and injustice in our communities, which tracks directly to business ownership. And we started to build a collection of companies that could wrap around entrepreneurs and business leaders from startup all the way up, or really even the nonprofit that I helped launch, from homeless and or refugee that doesn't speak English all the way to the CEO of $1 billion organization. I wanted to be able to help them move the needle and add value into their life. And so that's a little bit of the how and the why.
Big time.
Well,
sorry for the little bit of long tangent.
No, it's an amazing story, and it brings up a whole bunch of other questions in my mind. So one of the questions that I had was, do you recall, kind of going back a little bit in the story, when you finally made that decision that I've got to do something, I've got to turn it around, this lifestyle that I'm living is not sustainable.
Right.
Is there something that you can remember, some event, some intervention, something that, what was it that clicked in you that said, okay, now it's time to stop on this course and get on another track? Was there a particular conversation, person, event, thing, something?
Yeah, super vivid event, actually. So I'd been on a drinking bender and lots of challenges. And I ended up waking up, or getting woken up, I should say, by an ambulance driver as I was passed out drunk at a stop sign with my foot on the brake at a three-way kind of blind corner where somebody had called in, thinking that I was dead, passed out in the car. Wow. And had the ambulance driver not beat the highway patrol, it would have been a much worse situation for me. And when I got home and the highway patrol dropped me off, I was getting cleaned up because I still needed to go to work and needed to make an income and all those things. And I couldn't look myself in the eye in the mirror. I was going to shave for that day, and I couldn't make eye contact with myself. And one of the strong influences in my life was my grandfather, who was a command sergeant major in the Army and taught me a lot of different values and instilled things. But one of the things that nobody could take away from me through any of it was my self-respect. I had given that away, or I had made that decision. And so when I couldn't be proud of who I was or what I was doing, and I looked back and went, what the heck happened to the kid that wanted to change the world, wanted to be an athlete, to be a role model and everything? It was like almost one of those moments you would imagine in a cartoon or something, where a lightning bolt struck and was like, clouds parted. Okay, I need to do this. And then they quickly closed back up, as it was like, okay, well, now how do I do that? But
Right.
that was by far the moment that it was a visceral reaction to, I need to change. What am I doing? And then it wasn't a perfect turnaround. I would have loved to say, okay, well, then I immediately turned it around.
Right.
But
The next
it was a
day,
long journey.
That weekend.
Yep.
So when we talk about the success and that we have from a personal standpoint, and the story obviously is amazing, but how does that translate into the support that you help others be able to see their aha moment to be able to make that change? What are some of the things that you in the program you provide itself kind of instill for others to be able to get their make their life change?
Yeah, it's a great question. And we've been really fortunate to start to build these models and frameworks to be able to duplicate this or scale that within that impact within people. And we found a 5E framework that really changed everything for us. And the first E was to empower individuals, or to be empowered myself. That was to know that we are capable of influencing the outcome if we make different decisions and choices. And we need people to understand that they have personal responsibility over those decisions and choices that they're making, because in the end, those will make them. And so we like to make sure that people feel empowered to move the needle in their life. And then the second one is to educate. And we need to have an education, which does not always have to come from traditional means or things, but it's learning what we don't know currently. But while you can be empowered and educated to do something, if you don't get the third E, which is to be equipped with the right tools, knowledge, and connections, then you still have a hard time actually making the shift, right? If you don't have that support. So the equipping is more of the tools piece and support. And then the encouragement, which is the fourth E, speaks to this community aspect. Nobody can change it in a vacuum. And I see a lot of individuals that are isolating themselves, and we'll often say that isolation leads to devastation in your life, and you can't do it alone. Or in serving each other, we all become free. And then the fifth one, which lots of people can get those four, and they can have moderate levels of success or significance in their life. But the fifth one, to truly be a high performer and to make significant change, is to evaluate where you're at and your success. And so then we help people by those things, normalizing the struggle of, you're not alone. This is very similar. I mean, I'm a single dad with 6 kids. That my oldest is 22, down to 7-year-old twins. I've been through everything from medical challenges to business challenges, financial challenges, all those things. It's like there are more people that have struggled with the exact same thing as you. And if you truly want to move the needle in your life, you can take these steps. And so we walk people through that lens. We start with an awareness cycle to get to know where they're currently at, where they want to go, what's the gap. And then from there, we start to walk them through and optimize one area of their life. And then that drives to a management phase, and then more awareness. So yeah, it's a great conversation. The last framework I'll give you, which is where it gets a little complex and why I can't do it alone, and I have a great team supporting me of lots of great advisors and support, is we also look at in this concept of holistic success, or on the progress to holistic significance, is we look at the self-team community framework. And I believe that we all have a ripple effect that we leave behind us, which is that community impact. And whether that community is a smaller city, town, anything like that, if it's just a club that you're in or something or whatnot, then you have your team, which is oftentimes your immediate team would be your family and or your business team. And then the third one would be your individual self. And where I think a lot of people go wrong is they haven't identified the real challenge that they're trying to solve or overcome, whether it's a personal issue, and if they don't fix the personal issue and self-responsibility, they have a hard time showing up right in their team, which then has a hard time making the full impact they want to in their community. And so I threw a lot at you. Normally we'd have some visuals. It's a long journey. I don't want anybody hearing this to think that it happens overnight. I'm 15 years into becoming an overnight success, right? But that would be some of those frameworks that then we install with people to help them take the next right step in their life.
Well, and that's, I mean, the whole purpose behind this podcast and why I do what I do in terms of being an attorney, what George does, what you do. We see a lot of people that, I'm sure we all see a lot of people that just bury their head in the sand. I'm guilty of it from time to time. For just a problem gets so big. I've joked before that if I just ignore it, it'll go away eventually. And sometimes it works, but most times it doesn't. So if you're, I'm sure you have a lot of people that you talk to. I know I do as well. What would you say to somebody that you kind of perceive that they've buried their head in the sand? They haven't got to that point that you got to, that said it's time to turn it around. They haven't gotten to that point that I've gotten to, that I'm sure George has gotten to.
Absolutely.
What would you say to somebody that's struggling with that?
Yeah. The first one is, I see you, right? And like, hey, I see you and I'm here in that. But then the second one would be the question of, are you ready to make a change? And a person convinced against their will is of the same opinion still. And it's one of these situations where you can't help somebody that doesn't want to be helped. So it's, hey, are you ready to make a change or a difference? And if so, let me know. And if not, give me a call down the road.
Yeah.
And usually it sparks a conversation, right? You ask that question, what are you ready to change? One of three maybe responses in the most context would be, nope, I'm not, whether they know how to actually verbalize that or not. The second one would be, well, yes, I am. I would love to. And the third one that they don't always have words to is, well, it depends, right? Which is that, yes, I am, but it would depend on what is it going to take of me. And that's where the dialogue happens about if it's possible in this season of their life.
I thought you were making an attorney joke. It depends. A typical attorney answer. It depends.
But it's a good one, because that's the scariest part when we're in those situations. It's taking the big step. The first step is usually the hardest. I love the fact that you're acknowledging, like, hey, I understand where you're coming from, and we're not judging. We're not in that position where people feel like, because that's all we get on the internet, right? That's all we get from family, unfortunately, sometimes from neighbors. It's this feeling that someone's out there and they're judging me and they're thinking I'm a bad person. And, like if I talk to you, you're probably going to be someone else who does the same thing. And we just don't want people to feel that way. We want them, like, obviously the best from everyone. And a lot of times it's more of just like, let's just have that conversation. No commitment, just understand exactly, where you're coming from. And there's always something more than where you're at right now.
It's amazing from my perspective, the number of people that are so far deep in debt.
Yeah.
That
the numbers are very scary. You're right on that.
But what they want, and I get it, and I totally understand it. But some people have the mentality of, well, if I borrowed the money, I need to find a way to pay it back, which I totally get, which I totally respect. But at the expense of their well-being, their mental well-being, their lifestyle well-being. I mean, there are ways to get out of debt without paying back the entire debt. But I have this whole segment of clients that can't get beyond that perception of, I'm a bad person if I don't pay back every penny that I borrowed.
Right.
Yeah, it's a tough dilemma. Again, we're getting into the real psychological challenges, and even in that conversation on finding out if somebody's willing to change, there is the righting reflex that happens in everybody. And it's actually, when you get into the psychology and how our brain works, it can actually push people further away. So as an advisor, it can have the negative effect. As a family member, it actually has the negative effect when we're trying to, quote unquote, fix what somebody's situation is versus acknowledging and trying to meet them at common ground to take them to higher ground. And it's an internal battle that we can't answer for anybody. Right on those. They have to answer it for themselves, but we can hold a mirror back or be that person that's a sounding board to help them see and put words to maybe what they haven't been able to explain or put words to.
That's it. Love that.
So one of the things I see on the website, you've got here the service pillars on the Champion Empire website, and it's the Champion Roundtable, the career services, the generosity. Looking at the Champion Roundtable, it says, are you constantly putting out fires? Are you sacrificing family for work? Are you struggling with time management? And I read that and I went, yeah, constantly putting out fires. Yeah, sacrificing family for work. Yeah, struggling with time management.
Dude, it sounds like a Friday. What are you talking about?
It sounds like a normal work day for me. So what is the roundtable? How does it work? How does it help?
Yeah, well, great question. The first piece of it is those frameworks that I just installed with you briefly, and I ran through them fast, from the 5 E's to the self-team community framework. But then everybody has a business model and a competency, and they start out in an income generating opportunity, we'll call it, because whether they own a business, whether they work for a company, any of these things, they have an income earning opportunity. And in that, when they go to start a business per se, they usually have a foundational concept. They know they need to generate leads. They need to convert those leads into customers. And if they convert them and can increase their transaction count, then their transactions will hopefully lead to more profit.
Right.
And then they get started, and that pie that seemed simple with 5 basic pieces turns into about 100 as they go, oh, dang, what's my actual strategy? How am I positioned in the market? Do I have policies and procedures to scale? Do I have expertise that could be trusted? And then it gets into, oh, dang, I should generate leads. And you get into the basic concept, and we break business down into 3 simple components. You got to get the work, do the work, get paid for the work. And then that breaks into the different functions of business. And in the getting the leads part, then everybody's always getting inundated. They're getting calls from every media outlet, the backs of grocery store receipts, the golf course signs, the everything. Or they have all their friends telling them, well, you should be on digital media. Like, use digital marketing. And then in digital marketing, you peel the layers back and go, well, is that search engine marketing, or is that content marketing, or affiliate marketing? Is it Google pay-per-click ads? And it goes into all of these decisions that they have to make.
Is it starting a podcast?
Yeah. And all of those decisions, then if you're not careful, what do people do? It's the same as when they go look at their financial statements, their personal cash flows, or their debt, and then they throw their hands up and go, it's too insurmountable.
It's too much.
I've got decision fatigue. And that's why they need sometimes somebody that can help them. And so we built the roundtable with this premise of, look, you're going to encounter these major competencies, everything from strategy and leadership to marketing and sales, operations, finance, and then getting people on the team. I want to go build a group of advisors that then can come alongside you, and for affordable rates, you can get access to a plug-in leadership team to help guide you in those areas. And whether it's the question about your HR and how to hire this person and do a job description, and we have a 20 plus year senior professional HR on the team, whether it's you're struggling with your branding, and we've got multiple marketing professionals, and Tiffany from relationship marketing all the way to the high level content marketing and branding from a 40 plus year marketing executive that used to work at P&G and helped build $100 million brands. And I saw it going into kind of the pandemic, a whole bunch of great subject matter experts that flooded the market, that had great expertise, that wanted to add value to people, but didn't know how to build a business. And they themselves had never been a coach and advisor, sold a product, don't know how to package it, but they wanted to help businesses. And then on the flip side, there's all these small businesses that can't afford to pay the rates that an individual coach, consultant, or anybody can have. And then the third dilemma that happened in there would be that somebody would come to a coach or a consultant for a need. Hey, I need some help with my marketing, or I need some help in this area. And then before you know it, they would solve that challenge. But because the business owner had a relationship with them and didn't want to go through vetting somebody else, and the consultant or coach had the client and didn't know how to market and sell, they would coach past their area of expertise. which then would diminish the overall outcome for the client, because now they're trying to learn on the job about how to do operational processes and things that may not be their gifting.
Right.
They just have a base level knowledge at. So we built a collective of advisors that, from startup level packages all the way up to way more custom coaching and outsourced organizational development for organizations, we help lots of people. And that is one of the organizations that's currently growing. And then when you name those service pillars, the reason that those three were the first three that we've started and promoted and done, and when you mentioned that there's more than that, when you have those, now you also need to get the right people on the team, which is career services, where we can actually help with out placement or recruiting, helping people find the right work or creating their income opportunities, even if it's not them owning a business. And then we get into generosity, which is that piece for me where I believe that we need to be more philanthropic in nature. And one of our visions is to foster more generosity than any other leadership network in the world. So even every year on my birthday, I do an annual event that's been growing year over year to teach people how to be more generous with every aspect, and how it's not just writing the check, but
Right.
it's multiple ways. And so a little bit of longer answer, but that's how the roundtable kind of came to be, and how we help people with that.
No, I get it. Like I said, I'm digging around the website, and I'm really enjoying all the information, all the resources, everything you've got here on the website, which again I'll give out for everybody, is championempire.net, and I'll put that in the notes. So anybody listening, if you happen to miss it, just check the notes. There'll be a link there you can click. I did want to talk to you real quick as well before we try to end here. You've said that you have helped clients, and I assume this all kind of sort of wraps together as well, but eliminate over $5 million in personal debt, increased take-home income by a significant factor. I mean, obviously, it's all through the programs that you offer, the coaching, the support, the accountability, the 3 E's, all of that. But if you wanted to talk a little bit about, getting rid of $5 million in debt is quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. Well, and that's spread out amongst a bunch of individuals, and that could be helping them.
It's not one person that had $5 million in debt.
No.
Okay.
No. And those are probably old numbers, and I just wanted to be conservative on the estimate. We did have an individual that was you get several of them that are several $100,000 in debt that maybe haven't eliminated all of it. But yeah, it's been a journey. That's through our programs. That's through even a lot of the mentorship of individuals that I've worked with, even when I was doing it complimentary or any of those things, and really helping them identify in those same places. When you get into the finance pillar of their life, a lot of people don't run their household like a business, or their personal finances like a business. They don't have a personal cash flow that they look at and see. And so it's identifying where are they currently at, what's their discretionary income, what are their financial goals and their legacy, or what they want to leave behind, and then helping them build a plan to get there. And then where some of the other programs come in is, I realize that a lot of people in their current opportunities, they physically can't make enough money to do what they need to do. So I had to diversify the way that they could make money, or help educate them on different ways, how to turn some of what their hobbies that they're spending money currently on into a lifestyle type business of some kind, and transferring some of those expenses into more tax efficient vehicles, and how they're creating those. The importance of outsourcing different things. And I'd see a doctor that I work with that makes a pretty significant hourly fee or sum, that is still trying to manage all of the other day-to-day tasks, instead of outsourcing with an executive assistant or a part-time EA or a virtual assistant or things like that. So it's understanding where our time, money, energy are going, and how to not only financially prioritize, how to time prioritize, but also how to energy prioritize, so that they could get the most out of it and ultimately lead to the freedom and flexibility that they want to in their life. But it starts with painting the vivid picture of what it is that they want, while acknowledging that it's not insurmountable to get out from underneath what they're in.
Yeah, I've actually got a couple of interviews today. I've thought about getting a virtual assistant.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, even for me, for the law firm. I mean, these are I don't think it matters your experience level, your knowledge level. I don't think any of that matters. I think it's always a good idea to evaluate, is there somebody else that I can bring into the company that can take some of these tasks off my plate, which then frees me up to do other things that make me more money, make the law firm more income.
Yeah, a lot of times when we talk about, entrepreneurs and starting your own business, those are the things you don't realize how many other things that you don't like doing that you have to take on in order for the business to kind of start up and really start that success behind it.
Speaking of, when's your daughter coming back to clean up the office?
Yes, you got it.
Okay.
There you go. This guy knows how to delegate. I'll tell you that. Good job here.
I had my kids in the office last week, and they've left it a mess, and so we need someone to come in and clean it.
You got it.
There you go.
Love it.
Well, and on that note, like that's what happens too is people will often then realize we might get them to that point of awareness. Okay, I should outsource this, or I'm not the right person to do it. And even if it doesn't make money, like that's the part I've said on a couple podcasts I've guest spoke on was I have no problem shoveling my snow or
Right.
mowing my lawn.
What's
but
snow?
out of the, I know you in Florida, it's this white stuff
It's
that
this
actually
white, yeah.
falls from the sky.
It's cold.
But as we're prioritizing, there's things you can do, things you should do right now, and things you must do in your life. And there's these decision-making processes you can have that then go, does it need to get done, or do I need to do it? And those are the pieces that you can. But people will often venture in, they'll hire somebody, or they'll invest in that assistant, but they don't know how to equip them. They don't know how to actually delegate. They don't know how to do, what are they going to give them and how's the value, or they have somebody that doesn't work out because they don't know how to assess and interview people, how to use personality assessing softwares or things to be able to identify the right fit. So then they try it, it doesn't work out the way that they thought, and then they go right back to the habits that they were with more of a negative or restricted mindset now of saying like, see, it doesn't work. I need to do it, which is also another personal thing. And that's where in our programs, we definitely help people break down, yeah, it's time you should probably look at that. And here's some vetted ones. Here's some companies that you could use. Let's use this, this type of software to find the right fit, the right personality. And then we walk along the journey to help them realize what is a staffing issue or a contractor issue versus what they can do. And in this specifically finance arena, almost none of the entrepreneurs that end up wanting to build a company should be doing even their personal finance, bookkeeping, things like that. That's something that in today's day and age, you can find very reliable, credible individuals that can help you clean those up for a fraction of the cost that you could, or with softwares that can auto-categorize in certain systems. And so we've helped people. I've yet to have, and this will be the statement I'll make, and I know we're winding down, but I've yet to have a single company come on, I was doing the numbers, that stuck with us for a year and plugged in that didn't get at least a 2x return on investment, regardless of the package that they engaged us in, whether that was in cost savings or increased revenue. And most of them are much higher than that. And you'll see even some of the net profit increases or things that are listed on the website and things. But I can't stress it enough. And I'm glad to hear that you're looking into finding some support, Sean, because that is by far one of the things that will help you amplify your results or the time with your family.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. So, again, it's Jesse at championempire.net, or the website's championempire.net. Also on LinkedIn, Jesse-Johnson-Champion. Anything you wanted to mention? Anything we didn't ask you?
I don't think so. I think the statement I would make is, hey, thanks for having a podcast focused on helping people crush debt and investing the energy and helping educate people. I'm excited that I was able to visit with you today.
No, thank you.
Us too.
Yeah, we appreciate you being a guest on the show. So I do want to run through real quick. Again, big thank you. Welcome back to Magic Mind. You can go to magicmind.com/crushing and then enter the code crushing20, crushing20, and that'll get you 20% off your order of Magic Mind. Also, our good friend, our longtime sponsor, Sam Cohen with Attorneys First Insurance. If you're an attorney or title company or know an attorney or title company that needs some malpractice coverage, give Sam a buzz. He has challenged us that he will always answer on the first ring, but you can reach him I probably should write down his number so I can. If I challenge people to call him, I should probably give you his number. But I know that his website is attorneysfirst.com. Again, you can always support the show by going to our Patreon page, patreon.com/crushingdebt. Anything I'm forgetting, George?
No, my friend, you as always are killing it and doing extremely well.
I take a bunch of notes.
And no, but it's fantastic.
Write everything down. This brain can't keep track of it all. So, again, thank you, Jesse. We really
Jesse.
appreciate you being a guest on the show.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
And like we say at the end of every episode, I hope that at the end of the month you have more money rather than at the end of the money you have more month. And we will talk to you in next week's episode of the podcast.